Well, Brian, thanks so much for having us out here. We're at Escarpment Sound, is that right?
That's right.
And what's the town that we're in? I didn't recognize.
It's Bellwood.
Bellwood, okay.
Bellwood Lake. There's a big lake about 2 minutes.
Is that right?
North of here.
And it's well, you know, we're a little bit far out of the city and not too far from the 401 though, which is kind of good for travelers, but a beautiful trip out here. I'm glad we didn't have to do it in the snow. So thanks for having us in July.
Yeah. It's beautiful out here.
Oh, it's incredible. Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask you about the benefits of being out in the country and because a few studios that we've been to have been a little bit out in the bush and there is an advantage to that.
Right.
But tell me about how you got into recording and then how we got here into this incredible facility.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Georgetown and I was a guitar player in bands from about mid-70s till early 80s. I was playing guitar in bands and stuff. And I would be the guy renting cassette 4-tracks and recording demos in the basement. And we always practiced in my mom's house basement, so I always had a mixing console down there. Big PA, Hammond organ, drum kit, everything was always in the basement.
Nice.
So I was always tinkering, playing, that kind of stuff. And I was always interested in the gear. And as time went on, I found an opportunity to go to college in Oakville. For media arts. And at the time, I thought I'll go just so I can record my band for free. That was the thought there. It had a recording program and film and everything. So I took the course and then started majoring in audio. And after 3 years, getting all kinds of bands through and stuff, I decided that I really didn't want to play anymore live with a band and just delved right into doing music and recording. And
I can't tell you how many stories I've heard where it starts the same way. Well, first of all, I think everybody owes it to Tascam or whoever was making those 4-track. Of course, everyone started with those tape machines. But yeah, I mean, it's always a band member who is more interested in the PA system than the playing their instrument. You know, who ends up becoming an engineer.
I mean, I got guitars all over the place and still play, and I play in a lot of people's CDs, but I haven't played live for many, many years and in bars and stuff.
Well, that's cool.
But so I love music, and that's obviously the reason to get into all of this, right? All of the people who are into it. And I left college 1980. It was in Oakville at Sheridan, and got a job at a studio in Oakville called Soundpath Productions. I was the assistant there, obviously, for a while. Got to become an engineer after about a year. And they were like a jingle house. They do tons of jingles during the day. And then we record lots of music at night, rock bands and stuff. Oh, wow,
that's so cool.
It was a great place to learn the ropes. And I got to work on some great stuff. I worked with Triumph there, did on one of their albums. Their studio was too busy, and they came to our studio to do some recording. So I got a credit on a Triumph album. I did the Spoons. I don't know if you remember the Spoons. On an album for them. And so I did literally hundreds of recordings at Soundpath. And was having a great time. But they started to slow down a little bit, and I was dabbling with the idea of getting my own place. So I had a house that I'd bought in Acton, and I sold it, and I doubled the money quickly in about 5 years. So I used the money I'd made to buy studio gear, of course. I built a small studio in Acton on the main street.
Cool.
It was like a brick building out back, maybe 28 feet long by 14 wide, with a sliding door to separate the two rooms.
Cool.
So that was right on Main Street, Acton, and I was there for 5 years. Did 3 Stomp and Tom albums there.
No way.
All kinds of great demos with people.
How did you get hooked up with Stomptown? Because I see that I saw some of his CDs out in the hallway, but you've worked on quite a lot of his records.
Yeah, I did all this stuff for like 25 years or more until he died.
How did you get hooked up with that?
It was just great fate. When I opened my studio, the local paper did a little spread on me. And he had just come out of retirement and wanted to record a record. And the place that he usually recorded was in Norval called Orchard Studios. And they were too busy. Couldn't get him in. And a friend of mine, Dave, owned the studio there. And so they heard about my place and came out and had a look. And it wasn't overly huge. Just 14. So the live room was like 14 by 14.
Would he record live usually with a band, or would it be overdubbed?
It's maybe 2 other players with him.
Oh, okay.
It would be a stand-up bass and acoustic guitar and him.
And they would play live off the floor?
Yeah, like all the vocals on every album is him live off the floor. He never overdubbed.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's awesome.
This voice.
I grew up with that. I grew up with his greatest hits, and my grandfather always had his tapes kicking around the truck, and
it was great.
What a legend!
It was great to work with him because everybody knows that name.
Oh yeah,
everybody knows his name.
Well, that's cool. So then you moved. Where did you go from there?
So I was there for about 5 years, and then I wanted a bigger place.
Yeah,
the room was getting too small, and people had to use the washroom in the house. And all these problems. And when you try to get a bigger studio for more clients, it invades on the house.
Yeah, totally.
Which you probably know. I think you have a place.
Yeah, that's the same thing.
I started looking for a standalone, nice big building. So about 10 minutes out of town, I saw this farm for sale. That had a foundation of a barn that was caved in. It was a nice stone foundation.
Oh, okay.
65 feet square of stone, and 25 acres or 24 acres of property. And I thought, wow, this will be perfect.
Yeah.
So we bought that place and built up the barn, renovated the house. So the barn ended up being almost 4,000 square feet when it was all done up.
Wow.
So it had a huge live room, actually, but the same as this one.
Yeah.
But the walls were stone.
Okay.
Which was really nice for sound because it's irregular. Yeah. And it had nice booths and stuff. It didn't have the kitchen and the bedrooms that I have here, which is great to have here. But so I built that place up, and it was out in the country, and people loved coming there for the privacy. And
well, that's it. I mean, like, what were you ever tempted to go to the big city, go to Toronto or to go to Hamilton, or?
I applied when I got out of school. I applied everywhere. Yeah. And didn't get any.
But when you were starting your own place, did you ever think it'd be better for business to be closer to an urban area, or?
No, there was already too many studios going on in other places.
Well, yeah, that's true. Like, to have your own advantage of being that you have the quiet country to
that's what
relax
I was trying to use as my feature.
Yeah.
Because everybody this was 86 when I first started. So everybody that had a studio, they had a lot of good gear. They had big consoles. And there was no such thing as the home studio back then. Yeah. Because you had to have a big tape deck and you had to have a big console.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And so Toronto had lots of studios. Yeah. Mississauga was sort of getting there. The Metalworks was just starting.
Right.
Hamilton already had Grant Avenue and all these other places. Yeah. So I thought I'd just head a bit north. Plus, it's the only place I could afford. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. You get bigger space.
Building a studio on your own property is. Your mortgage goes into one nest.
Yeah,
it kind of
that's smart.
That way.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I thought that's the way I'm going to do
So what happened with that place? What brought you here?
I was there for about 25 years, and just we decided this to downsize a lot.
Oh, okay.
Get a smaller house and pay off some of the gear.
Sure, yeah.
And that kind of thing. And
was it hard to leave that place?
Yeah, it was a nice place, but it was getting hard to look after so much property and stuff.
Right.
So I found. Through a friend, I found Dave, the owner of this place. He had a private studio here. Oh, okay. Which I didn't even know about. We were so close because I'm only 10 minutes. My other place is only 10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
And I came out and saw this place and thought, wow, I could.
So this was built this way before you got into it?
Yeah, Dave had built it. I added some of the dampening because it was way too lively. It was
okay.
Over the top.
So it was all built like this, just someone's private studio.
Dave had a studio in Guelph before.
Okay.
A smaller one.
Yeah.
And then he wanted to have a bigger one. So he had this property here. And so he had the band Saga out for about a month to do pre-rehearsal for an album.
Okay.
So he built it for them to come and rehearse. Yeah. That was the original plan for the studio.
Yeah, okay, cool. Well, I mean, so when was this built as is? Because right now, and Jay's going to get tons of great footage here, but we're on top of a shop, of a garage.
Yes.
The building is humongous. Like, I'm already lost. I wouldn't know how to get out of here if we were in a fire. But when was this building and the studio built?
I think the studio is about 10 years ago.
Okay.
The building maybe 15.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
Around there.
And we're all on the second floor here. It's all on top.
It's all on the second floor. Well, there's a lounge down on the first floor.
Oh, right. And is sound ever a problem for the shop or anything? Or
if they were doing something really loud,
grinding or something,
but they always know when I'm doing something and they don't work in the shop.
Right.
It's not a working shop for business. It's
okay. It's just
a hobby
shop.
shop.
All right, that's cool.
That part works out. And the luxury of being in the country, like we have outside windows, which aren't insulated for sound, which you can't do in the city.
That's right, yeah.
And because
so you're never bothering anyone here.
We're never bothering anyone, and the road's far enough away that it's not bothering us.
Yeah, yeah, that's a huge advantage.
That's a great advantage of the country. So.
And not only that, but you have the natural light. Like as I'm talking to you now, I can see a farmer's fence and a field, and there's something nice about that.
Natural light is a really big thing. My last studio had natural light also, and I just love it. I've been in so many places that are dark, and I find it wears you out. Like you get very tired, you get headaches, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And you have to keep going outside to take breaks to get the light, and I love having the light. So this room has some windows. The control room has some windows.
Well, when you're in a country studio, you can't lose the light. You can't lose that view. Otherwise, what's the point? You might as well be in the city or underground.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I think it's a really cool thing. So obviously, when you have a huge room like this, you probably do a lot of live recording, or you probably make use of a huge room like
live
this.
Live recording is always what I'm into. I always like to do live off the floor.
Yeah. Well, it requires good musicians, though.
But everything's isolated.
Yeah.
So you've seen the way I'm set up here. I used to have the drums out in the main room.
Okay.
We stick guitar amps either in the booths or the closets.
Yeah.
So everybody's separated.
So when a band hires you, do they know, are they saying specifically that they want to do live, or do you have to convince them to try it live? Or
a lot of bands know that that's the way it would be.
Right.
And if somebody comes up here and they don't know what's going to happen yet, and once I tell them the way I'd like to do it, they go, oh, great.
Yeah.
Band members like to look at each other while they're playing.
Such a better performance, too. Yeah.
And, if the bass player makes a mistake, his amp is in the closet, so we just punch in that little part.
Nice.
Same with the guitar.
Yeah, that's cool.
Rough vocals are always done out here, but they never bleed into the drums.
Oh, okay.
So we just always redo them later.
Oh, okay. So you put a vocalist whereabouts then?
If he's the guitarist or whatever, he'd just be out standing in the room.
Okay, and then the guitar amps are in there, bass amps are in another room?
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
And everything's separated. Everybody's got their own headphone mixers.
Yeah.
Dial in what they want.
Okay, that's cool. So talk to me about your drums. Okay. So you said originally that drums were intended to be done in that room there.
Yeah, that was a drum booth.
Okay. And so why the move out here?
They just sound so much better in a bigger room.
Yeah.
Drums always need air.
Yeah. Is that like a style that changes with time, or?
Well, if you listen back to the 70s sounds, how tight those drums were, they were always in a small booth that was totally carpeted.
Right.
If you really like that sound, then you put them in a booth. But I think everybody's sounds have changed. The drums always sound bigger now.
Right.
Room mics are a huge deal in people's drum sounds. Sometimes they just use room mics and the kick drum mic sometimes just to get a John Bonham-y kind of a sound.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and I mean, when you compare it to the home studios that they have now, home studios would die to have a room like this.
Well, that's what we really have to offer, and what I'm really good at getting drum sounds, and that's what I really strive for with the recording, because everybody samples drums all the time.
Right. Yeah.
So many records, you just hear the samples of these.
We were talking about that on the way up.
These same drums. So if somebody can come out of here with a live drum sound that nobody else has, that's something you could offer, right? That
absolutely.
Nobody else has.
Yeah. No, that's really true.
Strive for. So we mic up the room all over the place to try to get different sounds.
Well, there's so many mics that I've been just spying that have been all over the place. So I want to ask you, but talk to me about what we're doing here. So closest to me right now, what is this model here? I'm not familiar with this.
That's the Neumann 193.
193, okay. That's
very
like
similar to an 87.
Okay. Is that like 80s or 90s or?
It would be a 90s.
A 90s? Okay, cool.
It's a really nice capsule. It doesn't have any switches, so you can't change anything.
Okay.
So they did that to keep the cost down, but still give you the Neumann quality on the capsule.
Okay, cool. And so you use that. That's pretty close for a mono sound.
Mic.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's sort of like if you were standing right here. That's the sound you're getting.
Right. I
like to get that of a guy standing here.
That's cool. Yeah.
Gives you that mid-room sound.
Yeah. Okay. And what's this here? This is fascinating.
This is the Earthworks.
Okay.
They are really sensitive Omni mics.
Okay.
They're actually used for measurement things most of the time.
Right, yeah.
And we have a pair of them, and they're perfect for stereo guitar sometimes.
Oh, okay.
They're an omnidirectional mic.
Yeah.
But if you have a nice room, you want to pick that up.
Yeah.
If you have a lousy room, it doesn't work so good because you're picking up too much room.
Yeah.
So I use it to grab another aspect of the drums.
Oh, okay.
Just to grab more room and more closeness sometimes.
Yeah. And will you use that mic in the mix? Like, where would that go? Would that be panned at all, or is it just?
No, it has to be pretty well centered.
Right. Okay.
Because it's going to be the whole kit.
Right.
And you would just use a little bit of it. This makes the kit bigger.
That's crazy.
It's like all these mics. You never have them way up on the mix. They're always just blended in.
And everything kind of adds all together, right? And okay, so you have 421s on the toms.
Yep.
Lots of toms here. And what do you do with the snare? See something unique on there. What's that on top?
That's a Beta 57.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I find I use a 57 quite a bit, but I'm always adding top end. So the Beta has a touch more top end.
Oh, yeah.
So I just use it because you're going to add it anyways.
Well, I'm always interested in what people. There was when we were at another place called Tape. I can't remember now what mic, but they said they had a mic that they use on the snare. I can't remember what it was, but I'm always interested in what, because 57s are pretty much the classic for the top.
Yep.
But nobody's ever really happy with that sound. There's always a lot of tweaking.
Always adding something to it.
So it's kind of.
I got a 57 on the bottom.
Okay, that makes sense.
Which you throw in out of phase.
Yeah, that makes sense. What's on the hat here?
That is
AKG
one of my favorite mics. It's a Calrec 1050.
Really? Never heard of that.
It's amazing. Like I use it on bass cabinets because it really brings out the mid frequencies.
Is it a condenser?
Yep.
Okay.
It's great on any kind of drums. It's great on acoustic guitars.
Wow.
It's actually one of my most used mics. That's my go-to for acoustic.
No way. Yeah. Calrec. I'll have to check that out. And then what do we have for overheads here?
They are AKG 535s.
Really? That's interesting.
I had Terry Brown in once, and we were talking about overheads that he used on Rush and stuff like that. And he said back then his favorites were the 535s. And I had never heard of them, so I went out and bought a pair. Yeah. And I've been using them ever since. They're a great mic.
Are they dynamic?
No, they're condensers.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And they're great vocal mic also. And they just they seem to just pick up the cymbals nicely without being very harsh. Right. Like a K84 might be sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's been my go-to for the longest time. That's the 535s.
That's cool. And then I see you have a D112 over there on the floor tom. Yeah. That's kind of interesting. I haven't seen that before.
I kind of like my bottom tom to be like my kick drum.
Oh, okay.
So I have the same mic in the kick drum.
Yeah.
So I like to have that same kind of character on that very low tom.
Yeah.
And I find that mic,
that's smart.
I don't know if you know how they swoop out the mids on that mic.
Yeah,
and I find it just works well on the very low tom.
That's cool. That's a great idea. And then I see here, this is interesting, you have a 57 under the one of the toms. Do you use that?
Occasionally I double mic the drums.
Okay.
So I'll throw some mics underneath. That's just one that was left over.
And so you'll use a 57 for underneath?
A 57 or a 421 if I have more.
Right. Well, I think it was, you've got 4 here. I think I saw another one too hiding.
Yeah, the one on the guitar.
I think it was Darren from Jukasa who said to us that he puts a 57 under the toms.
They do the trick because it just grabs, like you don't need a lot of the bottom the drums are giving sometimes. I find I'm rolling off a lot of bottom.
Right,
so it doesn't always have to be a mic that's going to pick up everything.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because he said it was a huge moment for him when he did that, and I really want to hear it. I want to hear it.
First learned recording, everything was double mic'd.
Really?
And actually, all the drums back in the 80s didn't have bottom skins. And
I remember that.
Inside
I remember Phil Collins used to take his bottoms off.
So we'd have a mic right inside the drum, and that's
no way.
That's how I learned to make drums, and it escapes a totally different sound, which nobody's into anymore. But so double miking is something I like to try sometimes if I have the time or the. Yeah,
that's really cool. What's going on in the kick?
The kick always gets a bit too much attention.
Yeah. Okay. What's on the inside? I can't see that.
D112.
Okay, a D112. And then what do we have out here?
This is the Audio-Technica Pro 25.
Okay.
So for an outside mic, I like to use this sometimes.
Okay, and that's a kick drum mic too, right? Is it?
Yeah, it can be a kick drum mic. It's a hypercardioid, so it's really tight pattern.
Oh, okay.
So if I'm going to use a lot of mics, I would use that to capture the outside.
Right.
The
D112, yeah.
This one to capture the inside.
Yeah.
And then we have the homemade sub kick.
Wow, that looks great.
It's so funny because I tried one with an NS10 speaker and I tried all kinds of fancy cabs.
Yeah.
And they suck. When we just slapped this one on a piece of wood.
And where'd this come from? Like a home stereo or?
engineer that used to be my assistant, Phil, had built it in about 10 minutes for one session.
I love this.
He said he got a piece of wood, so I found a piece of wood and he screwed the speaker to it, and it's given us the best sound out of anything we tried.
Just some nice thick low end.
It's just really low sub stuff. Like it doesn't pick up any highs, obviously.
Well, I saw somebody do this, and I can't remember where I saw it. And I heard about the NS10, but I mean, to get an NS10 speaker would be more money than you need to spend on something like that.
Well, we have a few that we've blown the tweeters on, so I just tried it to see how nice. I thought, oh, this will be perfect. It's already in the cabinet. It should be great. And it didn't have the low end.
No way. That's crazy. Well, I saw somebody do that, and so I said to my wife, I said, if you're ever out walking and you see a speaker in the garbage, let me know. I'm going to come and pick it up because I wanted to try this. And actually, our friend James had suggested, if you ever get a speaker, a lot of times people take out the speaker and then rig up some little thing. And he said, why don't you just leave the speaker in the cabinet and just put the cabinet right there because it's already at that high level. So I found these speakers on Kijiji for 50 cents. The guy was selling them, 2 of them. And they were they're like meant to go, outside by your pool or in the garage. And they were, I think they're maybe about like 8 inches. And they come in a small little box that's angled. And so I kept them in the box and I just set it in front, tried an XLR, and I couldn't believe the sound. I mean, there's a little bit of buzz from it that I had to get rid of, but I couldn't believe it. It's a beautiful, just really complements the D112.
I find subs work all the time. It's
unbelievable.
It's part of my setup. I mean, you only bring in about 3 or 4 dB on the fader with the actual.
But when you mute it, you feel it's gone.
Oh yeah, all of a sudden you lose that.
It's crazy. Yeah, I think what's so fun about it is for home studio enthusiasts, it's the cheapest DIY piece of equipment you can make.
And just experiment with wood and a low speaker.
Yeah.
It'll work.
Do you ever use something like this anywhere else, like on a bass cab or under a tom or anything?
That kind of thing?
Yeah.
No, I haven't tried it anywhere else.
Yeah, I'm just curious if anyone's... That's cool. That's really cool. I love to see a homemade one. Did I miss anything?
No, that's all the mics.
So this is an incredible room. So you what do you do for miking in the room when you're doing drums?
I have a stereo mic up on the balcony.
And who makes that?
That's a Rode NT4.
Okay, I recognize that.
Very nice capsules. That works great on acoustic guitars too, to give you a stereo acoustic.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to have. Is it permanently up there?
Well, it's just sitting there, but it's been up there for a long time.
It's nice to
it's wired right up to
always have a stereo.
It's on my template in Pro Tools.
Yeah,
it's
nice,
there.
Nice. I think almost like any time something's happening in here, you can have that on.
Yep.
I think it would be really cool.
Sometimes it's too roomy. It works only for drums. I've tried it. Like I've had big band sessions with 18 people in here. And I recorded that just to see, but it's too roomy.
Yeah,
It didn't work.
Yeah. And then what else do you do?
I've got another Earthworks over there that sometimes I blend in.
No way. Into the drum sound.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Just different faders for different options, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes if you're doing like 5 songs, if you record all these for songs, sometimes one song will use it one mode or whatever.
Right.
Just gives you the options.
Do you ever find you're working on a track, you've got all these mics, and some things you don't end up using. You don't end up using this, or you don't end up using the sub. You find that?
Yeah. Especially if the song starts to get tighter and poppier.
Right.
This will come way down or maybe off. The sub might not need as much because I want a punchier kick drum.
Right.
That won't even use it all if I need the tight drums.
It's nice to have though, eh?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's the greatest thing about Pro Tools. So many tracks you can bring stuff in, and if you don't use it, no problem.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
And so this is your kit here?
It's the studio kit.
The studio kit, yeah. And do people use this kit, or do they prefer their own?
I find about 60% are using this kit.
Yeah.
They'll bring their own snare and cymbals and things.
Yeah.
And their stool. But the kick drum sounds really nice, and the toms do. So it's
a nice size too. What size is that kick drum?
It's a small one. It's like the 20.
That's great.
I can't remember the exact size.
That's cool. So a couple of the mics that I see, Jay, we're going to stroll a little bit here. What's this here? Is this an 87?
It's an 87, yeah.
Okay. That looks pretty vintage.
It's vintage.
Yeah? Is that, what would that be?
About used in
70s, 80s, or?
Early 80s about used.
Yeah.
So it was from the 70s for sure.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's been the main mic.
So you you bought this used in the early 80s?
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible, and that says a lot about the gear. I mean, think of what
microphones are the one thing out of any piece of gear in a studio that holds its value or is worth more than when you bought it.
Totally.
And it's the only thing.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Computer stuff is worth nothing after you buy it.
No kidding.
Almost everything else goes down in value. But every mic I have, I could sell for what I paid.
Well, I just don't think that there's any electronic item that is made today that would last, what is this? Well, I know how old I am, so 30 odd years, right? Yeah. I mean, that's just to think of like the stuff we buy today from Best Buy, a television, this kind of stuff
to be thrown away instead of taken apart.
Exactly.
Fixed. So, yeah,
unbelievable.
These were German made, so that back then they were totally into quality, and they still are.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of vintage mics worth a lot, Jay, can we go over here to this AKG? I want to ask you about this 414 here.
Yep.
So I noticed this as soon as I came in. Let me pull it out here. Can you tell me a little bit about this? Because this is a gorgeous mic.
It's the same age. I bought it used also when I bought that one.
No way.
And I probably noticed it has no switches.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a remote 414.
Wow.
So it has
414 EB.
It has this box that comes with it, and this is how you set your pattern.
Look at that. Is that box the original that came with it? Wow.
It was made
in incredible condition too.
Yeah. It was made
unbelievable.
It was made for choirs to have the mic way up.
Sorry, Jay.
It was made to have the mic way up in the air for choirs, and then you change your pattern down below.
Oh wow. So you just have the one?
Yeah, the box is made for two, but I just have I have another 414, but not remote like that one.
Unbelievable.
So it's
those are very coveted. It's worth quite a lot now too.
Yeah, I think it is, and it's. I have two 414s, and they end up being my main vocal mic.
Really?
Over the 87. I always set everything up to for people to do a shootout, and 414s win 95% of the time.
A buddy of mine generously lent me his 414, and it's one from the 90s, I think. It's a ULS, I think.
Yeah, we have a black one in there.
Okay, yeah, that's the same with the switch that's really uncomfortable on the thumb. But it was the first time I ever set up a mic. I'd grown up with, these cheap Behringer stuff. And first time I ever set up a mic and thought, holy smokes, that sounds like a real record, on acoustic guitar. Mm-hmm. And he lent it to me years ago. I still have it. And it's incredible. So I love those mics. Mm-hmm. That's really cool to hear that you pick it over the U87.
It seems to, so many times it just wins.
So you're buying all these investment things in the 80s. Do you regret not buying more stuff back then?
I should have bought more.
Yeah.
Sure,
who would have known, eh?
But there was a bunch of stuff I bought that isn't worth anything anymore.
Is that right?
I went through ADAT machines.
Right.
All these old reel-to-reels. And
so hopefully it balances out in the end.
There was all kinds of stuff I bought that's in the garbage now.
I heard that there was a time, I've only been into this stuff for the past 8 or 10 years, but I heard there was a time, maybe late 90s or so, where a lot of the analog gear, specifically studio rack mount stuff, it was just, you could get it for much cheaper than you can today.
Nobody wanted it.
Yeah.
We were switching to digital, and everybody thought, man, let's get rid of all this old stuff.
You wonder how much of that stuff maybe ended up in the dumpster.
Some did.
Yeah.
Yep. There was places like CBC and that, they would just had all these tape decks out in their garbage bins.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So whoever just held out and thought that analog would come back is... the funny thing about gear, I always tell my wife, I think, the stuff holds its value, but I don't want to sell it. Yeah. So it's like, that's great how much money this is worth, and it's held its value. It's probably worth more than you paid for it in the 80s, but you never want to lose it, because the reason it's worth so much is because it sounds so good.
Mm-hmm. And you're going to keep it, probably.
And you're going to keep it, yeah.
Unless you totally get out of this. But
yeah. But then the problem with that, I've had those thoughts too. I thought, you know what, I'm going to sell this because we need money, or maybe I'm not making as much music. But you never want to have to buy it back.
No.
That's the painful thing.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
So yeah, we've got
beautiful.
The major mics, and then we've got all kinds of secondary mics. We've got about 55 mics total.
Wow.
Between Dave and I.
Wow.
So we got lots to spread out.
Yeah.
But we don't have a lot of the vintage 47s or anything, but
yeah,
we have these nice ones.
Well, it's cool what you said about the, what was the other one you said, the hi-hat mic? The Calric. It's what I love about these studio tours is coming here, and we know a U87's great. We know people use the D112 on the kick, but to hear unique stories about the Calric that you use on everything, and I think it's cool how engineers have their one mic they go to.
Yeah, and sometimes it's different than what other guys are using.
Yeah, that's really cool. So the whole time that I've been in here, I've been looking at this thing. And what do we got here?
It's the Talkbox. It's the like Peter Frampton wah wah wah.
Yeah, like the Bon Jovi uses it too. Okay.
Yeah, it's homemade. Dave made it.
No way.
Yeah.
So explain to me, how does this work then?
Look at it's an old amp. It's a Bogan amp, from your high school PA.
Okay.
It's probably somebody stole it from the high school. Yeah. And then you have a tube that you have to put in your mouth while you're playing.
Yeah.
And you have a vocal mic right beside you.
Right.
And wah, 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 you do your voice goes down the tube into the amp.
Okay.
As well as the microphone.
Yeah.
And gives you that Bon Jovi, Peter Frampton Talkbox.
And the sound travels through the tube.
Yeah.
Who invented that? Where did that come from? Has that always been a DIY thing, or was there a company that ever made one?
Well, there's a company now. Peter Frampton actually has one out there.
Oh, okay. His own.
Well, a company that...
Like he owns the company that builds... Oh, okay.
And there's a few other ones. But the first ones were just DIYs. Like this.
Is that... does that get used a lot?
Yeah, it does, actually.
Really?
As soon as people see it, they go,
I bet.
I think I can use that. That song.
Did Stomp and Tom ever use that?
No, he didn't use hardly any amps. It was acoustic music.
It's so funny. I think if I was coming in here making a folk record, I'd try to figure out a way to incorporate it.
Yeah, so that gets used as well as a lot of the other amps. People like to have the vintage amps and guitars.
Beautiful amps. What's this over here? Recognize this one.
Silvertone. From Sears.
What year is that from?
Oh, it would be the 60s.
From Sears, eh? I have a little Sears amp I found online for $10, and it's crazy.
These
it's a tube.
It's a tube amp with tremolo. Actually gets used quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because it has a very distinct mid-rangey sound.
Right.
Which cuts through.
That's really cool.
And it's
is this yours?
Yeah, I think it's like 70 watts or something. It's very cool for that different sound.
Yeah. I think it's great for studios to have some vintage stuff because, every band might have one of these, and they might have, some of the traditional stuff.
Yeah, everybody has a Marshall in the studio or whatever somewhere, but having a Silvertone is neat. And
yeah, totally.
This little Tech 21 is neat. You can hook it up to a 412 cabinet. It gives you some neat guitar sounds.
Okay, cool.
This old Trainer stuff, it's really come back. It used to be garbage.
Yeah, that's Canadian stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, the Trainer, I see like PAs that are going for money now too. And
well, they're tube amps, they're tube heads, and people just love that sound again.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It works really well.
And there's a real nostalgia too. Everyone had a high school PA or a church PA with a Trainer.
Yep, the Trainer columns.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, let's hit the control room. So we're here in the front of the spaceship here. And you got a great view of the live room. That's really nice. Before we talk about the board here, you literally have, I said this when we first came in, you have the greatest hits of monitors up here. Can you tell me what you have and what you like about them and when you use them? Because you really have some great stuff.
So start with the middle guys.
Yeah.
The Yamaha MS-10s, which are pretty well the standard.
Yep.
Everybody has them. Doesn't mean they sound the greatest, but when you mix on them, it works.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing about the Yamahas. People and anybody that comes in that's used to MS-10s, they like to have something familiar. So. Right.
And I guess it's important when you're bringing in other producers or engineers that they have monitors they're familiar with.
Because every room's so much different, and they don't know exactly what they're getting sometimes.
Right.
So if they know what an NS-10 sounds like, then they got the ballpark.
And can you run an NS-10 through any amp, or does certain amps change the sound at all?
It will a little bit. I have a Yamaha amp.
Oh, okay.
That's powering them, and it's worked great.
But that was meant for the NS10s? The actual amp that's meant for them? Or?
It was a Yamaha PA amp.
Oh, okay.
It works great with them.
Okay. I've always been curious about that.
Yeah, so I have the NS10s with the Need the Amp.
Okay.
Then we have the Genelecs, the 31s. They're self-powered.
Okay.
And they're just very sweet sounding. You can listen to them all day and not be fatigued.
Okay.
They used to be my favorite mixer, and then a month or so back, Steve Fontano, a producer from the States who'd worked with Santana, was in here mixing. And he wanted to use the tannoys, which I had just as secondaries over there.
Really?
And he said, I want to use the tannoys. I can tell the bottom end way better. And put them up, and I go, he's right. You can really feel the bottom end better on the tannoys, which are way cheaper than the Genelecs to buy, but they just work.
Wow.
So I've been mixing mostly on the tannoys lately and getting better mixes, which is
cool.
Very odd, because at first I dismissed them and left them to the side. And
so those would be
self-powered also.
Primary?
I find them the ones I'm using a lot for mixing.
Yeah.
And switching back and forth from the NS10s.
Okay.
Then I have the JBLs, the 4425s, the big guys.
Gorgeous.
They're nicknamed the Dolly Partons because of the tweeter up there.
Yeah.
They were one of the main, JBLs were a main monitor back in the early days for a rock monitor.
Right.
Very loud and accurate.
Yeah.
They're not so great now for mixing, I find, but if somebody wants to hear something really loud back there, I'll play it on those, and it works great. Lots of times when a rock band comes in, young guys or whatever, they've been playing out there pretty loud, so they're used with the headphones were really loud.
Yeah.
So when they come and hear playback, they need that same kind of volume to feel it.
Right.
So I'll crank the JBLs, and I'll leave the room for a minute because I don't want to burn my ears out.
Yeah.
You got to keep your ears all through these sessions. So, so I'll just crank it really loud for them, and they can get a feel how it's sounding loud.
But they're too much for mixing?
They just aren't as accurate as these newer speakers.
Yeah.
These are from the early 70s, the JBL stuff, so it's just not reacting.
Right. Well, they're in great shape.
Yeah.
They look brand new. Incredible.
I've had them reconed, and they're really nice for the bass, bottom end response. So it's good for checking. When I'm doing drum sounds, I'll pop them up to get the bass drum, the low end and stuff.
That's cool.
And then I'll switch back to smaller ones while I'm tracking.
Do you check headphones ever? Sometimes I see people with headphones on the console for mixing.
I've got headphone patches here. Okay. I got a headphone patch that comes up over there.
Yeah.
So when I'm mixing, I'll throw headphones on sometimes, especially to check stereo stuff.
Right.
And effects and things like that.
So the Avalon, I'm not familiar too much with this console. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Okay, it's a DNR Avalon. It's built in the Netherlands, 1990.
Yeah.
It's a great console. It's an inline console, which means you've got the dual faders.
Okay.
So your small faders can be used for recording, and these will be your monitor levels while you're recording.
Awesome. Okay.
When you're mixing, you can use both. So you can have 68 faders going.
Wow.
It's a very flexible console. It was supposed to be a mid-range console to compete with Neve and SSL and all those guys.
Right.
So it would have been about $100,000 when it was new.
Wow.
I didn't buy it new. I bought it used.
How did you come across it? Where did you?
It was at a place called Teletech in Toronto.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of that store.
No.
It was the greatest place when I was starting.
Is that right?
It had a warehouse full of consoles. Like it was the place to go. So they were lined up like used cars. All these consoles and tape decks and all of this gear.
I wanted to ask you, sorry to interrupt you, but what was the music scene in Canada like in the 80s and 90s? Because we always hear, I wasn't familiar with it at that time, I was just a kid, but we hear what the music scene was in New York and LA and Nashville at that time, but what was it like in Canada?
I think it was good, but we didn't think it was as happening as the States. We always thought everywhere else was better.
Right.
But there was tons going on. There was a lot of studios in Toronto. Like there was.
Well, to think of a store with consoles.
Yeah, and there was a store with consoles lined up.
Incredible.
And it was great. So when I went looking for a console, I had a Soundcraft at one point and wanted a bigger one with automation because everybody was needing automation for all these mixes.
Right.
So I went to Teletech, and they had all these used consoles lined up that other studios had traded in or whatever.
Yeah.
And I saw this one, and some studio had went bankrupt, I think, in Newmarket, and it just ended up at the store.
Wow.
So,
and does it have automation on it?
And it has automation, which is a really nice feature because when you get this many faders going and you do a mix, you can't just have 5 people doing a mix each time. And
yeah.
I mean, it's fun to have people doing it, but it just gets crazy. So, so the automation on this remembers all the fader moves and the mute moves.
Right.
But nothing else. It doesn't remember your EQ or your sends.
Need Pro Tools to do that, I guess.
Yeah, well, exactly.
So what do we have on a channel then?
So it starts with obviously your assigns.
Yeah.
So it's 32 bus.
Yeah.
So you can assign a mic to any one of 32 channels on Pro Tools now. It used to be tape.
Yeah.
You've got your gain, phase button, line button. So any mic channel can be a line.
Okay.
We have all the EQs, and it's pretty extensive EQ. It starts with your highs, high mids, low mids, and bass. And the two middle frequencies have the Q. Mm-hmm. The Q is your width of the EQ dialing in.
Wow.
And they all overlap the frequencies, so it's very flexible.
No kidding.
And the EQ can either be on the mic or in the monitor mode, depending on the buttons you push.
And there's a little filter up here?
Yeah, low.
Yeah.
That's a high-pass filter to cut the lows.
Very cool.
So it's a very good EQ section. And then we have 8 sends that could be used for effects. It used to be used for headphone mixes, but now I have separate mixers for the headphones, which is great.
Yeah.
So I just use all these for sends to effects.
Right. And so are you mixing on this console?
Yeah.
That's great.
But 98% of the time I come back out of Pro Tools and through this.
I saw you have a Tascam tape machine over there. Do you still record the tape ever?
Occasionally, but nobody wants to buy the tape.
Yeah. That's what we always hear.
What it gets used for mostly now is for transfers.
Oh, okay.
Tape to Pro Tools.
Of older recordings?
Stuff, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess it's good to have something around for that, eh? Yeah. Yeah. So Pro Tools, are you doing any plug-in work in Pro Tools, or is it
I'm doing a mixture of the two worlds, which is great.
That's cool.
I use all this analog gear for recording.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to mixing, I use a lot of the main compressors and stuff. But if I'm going to use like 5 compressors for little things like background vocals or whatever, it's all in Pro Tools.
Right. Well, that's really cool. That's really cool. A good way to use both, because you're right. I mean, who can afford to have that many great outboard compressors for background vocals and stuff like that?
You don't need really expensive gear for a lot of the tracks.
Yeah.
And if you record stuff with great stuff, you might not need it again while you're mixing.
Right. Right.
So
that's true.
You don't always need it, but I do a lot of the simple EQing in Pro Tools and compressing.
Yeah.
And a lot of little fader moves for volumes on the Pro Tools. So it's a combination of both worlds.
Yeah.
Because I love doing a mix by riding faders.
Yeah.
I find I can really get the mix feeling good that way.
Right.
Then I'll get into Pro Tools and do little tiny moves.
Yeah. So do you have a preference?
I like the board.
You like the board. Yeah.
And the board does sound better. I've done mixes from a board mix and then try to do it right in Pro Tools.
Yeah.
And there is a sound difference.
Oh, that's cool.
Because of the busing and the two mix out on a console, it's made to handle so much stuff without overloading.
Yeah.
It just seems to be more open and give you a wider mix.
That's awesome.
I mean, there's a reason why they cost so much money.
That's right. And there's a reason why as the digital gets bigger and everyone throws stuff in the garbage, there's a reason why people are buying consoles again, or they're trying to summit, or they're bringing it out to a place like this.
You've been talking to other studio guys, and they all have a console that they love for some reason or whatever, and it's because it does
something.
Stuff.
Yeah. And most of those guys that we talk to have been on the completely in the box side of things, and then they've come back and said, you know what, we actually need it to go through a console.
It does.
That's cool.
It does have a sound that works for me.
Yeah. This is an incredible space. I mean, I hope that Jay can capture the height of everything and just how beautiful this place is. But you got a really great space here. This must be a fun place to work.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It is fun. And everybody really enjoys it here.
Do you mix projects that you didn't record, or is mostly the stuff that
I've done.
People send you stuff?
With all the home recording now, I find people are realizing something's missing.
Oh,
once they get it done and they go looking for help.
Yeah.
So lots of times people bring me Pro Tools sessions and
that's great.
Say, what can you do to it?
Yeah.
To make it better, whatever.
Well, the home recording, what I like about home recording is that it allows for creativity. I feel like you can stay up till 3 a.m. and not worry about studio time and tinker with sounds that otherwise would annoy your bandmates or the engineer.
Yep.
But the limitations come to when you want to get that sound sounding like the radio or sounding like a record.
And I find, I mean, I've been doing this a long time, so I find when I just do a quick mix sometimes, I'm getting closer than when the guys have got working on it for 8 hours at home because they inexperience or not the right gear or whatever it is.
Absolutely.
So that's what a lot of people come to an engineer looking for.
I find myself, I get frustrated with myself in my mixes, and I think, man, I've read this article, I've watched this video, I've practiced for, you know, a year, and I get so frustrated. But then I hear your story, and I hear that you were, you know, doing it in the basement, and then you were going to school for it, and then you interned here and played here for 20, 30 years, and there's no wonder I'm not getting a good mix.
Some things take time.
Yeah.
I'm sure my first mixes were horrible.
Well, at least they were through a console.
But yeah, I love using the analog world, and we've got lots of consoles that we don't even use all the time in years. But but they're there. But this second console actually has a rack of DBX compressors, which I use sometimes. It's like the 500
no kidding,
series.
Yeah.
So if I need extra preamps or compressors, I'll tap into this.
Just run over to those, yeah.
But we just have it as a separate setup. That's why it's there.
Okay.
Which is great. But
yeah.
It's nice to have backups too, because one time this caught on fire and it was out of commission for a month.
Come on.
Yeah. I had to replace the whole middle section.
Wow.
And so we were down. This console was down, and I switched the next day over that one and was able to just
That's great.
keep going.
Yeah, that's great. So what are you working on these days?
A lot of bands from Toronto, a lot of young bands.
Okay.
Sort of punky, rocky stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of folk bands around this area.
Yeah.
Plus, you have to diversify. Like, I've made my vocal booth really dead because I do some spoken word stuff too.
That's smart.
We do audio books.
Oh, good.
So I do a bunch of stuff for Amazon.com.
No way.
For books.
That's great.
And you just got to diversify.
Yeah.
Because you're not always book solid with music. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why studios are struggling.
Yeah.
A lot of them closing down. You got to do what you can. I have a CD duplication in the back, so
smart.
Sometimes you just got to
that's great.
Do little things someday and great things another day.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. Mm-hmm. Well, thanks so much for having us out. You have a great space. It was really great to meet you. Thanks for having us out, and I can't believe it. I just can't believe how cool you coming in here. And I said it off camera. I think it's like a church, you know, but it sounds a lot better.
People really like it here, and they feel good out in the country.
Yeah.
There's horses outside they can sit and look at sometimes while they're playing.
That's a big thing, I think. It's really big, just the environment you're in. I mean, my buddies and I, we went up to a cottage one time, brought just some home recording gear. And even though the recordings actually didn't sound as good as the memories were, but it just felt good. It felt right. And I've seen some pretty sterile studios that I just don't understand how creativity happens out there. But this is really cool.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks a lot.
All right.
Appreciate it.